Hey guys, we're going to cover another UFC fight night, this one being UFC Vegas 76, coming up this weekend. Let's get right into it. There's three fights I want to go over, starting off with Max Griffin against Michael Morales. Now, Max Griffin won his last fight. He's currently 19-9 professionally, 7-7 throughout his UFC run. And the guy's well-rounded. He's very quick on his feet. He's got a lot of power in his hands. And I feel like for this fight, he really should look to go to the ground, considering the guy he's fighting is currently undefeated as a pro, 14-0. Michael Morales is on a roll right now. And Michael Morales, without a doubt, prefers to stand. He's got a lot of power in his hands. He's a really great striker, and he's got 11 knockouts in his career, along with the two fights that he's had inside of the UFC so far, ending in knockout. And while I feel like Max Griffin is the more complete, well-rounded fighter, I think that Michael Morales has shown he can get up from takedowns more often than not. Normally we'll see him get into a bad position on the ground where he doesn't want to be, but maybe 30 seconds to a minute later, he's able to get back up. And he's shown he can really handle himself in terms of protecting himself whenever he goes to the ground, even though that's not his strong suit. So far, everything I've seen from this guy is his game plan is really just to keep it on the feet. If it goes to the ground, get back up to the feet. I'm going to strike with you, I'm going to hit you, and I'm going to look to finish you. And I kind of feel like we're going to get a bit more of that in this fight. So for this one, I'm going to take Michael Morales. And on to the co-main event, Damir Ismagulov against Grant Dawson. Ismagulov has a 24-2 record as a pro, which is a really good record to have. He lost his last fight to Arman Tsarukyan, and to me it seems like he really prefers to be on the feet, but he has no problem going to the ground. And in his run so far in the UFC, Arman Tsarukyan is the only guy to be able to beat him. He was on a 5-fight winning streak before ever fighting Arman Tsarukyan, including names like Thiago Moises, Joel Alvarez, and Guram Kutateladze, which, while those guys are outside of the rankings, they're big names to get if you're fighting guys who are not currently ranked. Meanwhile, Grant Dawson has been on a 10-fight winning streak, and so far has been looking really good. With only one loss in his career, this guy has shown that he is well-rounded, he can do it all, but he prefers to go to the ground, it looks like. He's shown that he can strike with guys, but from what I see, it looks like his bread and butter really is in the grappling department. And that's how you see a lot of his fights go. He looks to go to that takedown and get these guys to the ground. He's got 13 subs in his career, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him at least attempt a few submissions in this fight, but Damir Ismagulov is a hard guy to submit. I don't think he's ever been submitted. And in this fight, I feel like Ismagulov is going to have the striking advantage, but I think that Grant Dawson will be able to catch him off guard with the grappling and wrestling. Because it seems like a lot of the time, Grant Dawson is really overlooked or underrated. And I think Grant Dawson has what it takes to win this fight. So for this one, I'm going to take Grant Dawson. And now for the main event, Sean Strickland against Abus Magomedov. This one's a little bit weird. Abus Magomedov is a guy who has only had one fight inside of the UFC. And it's like, yeah, it was a 19-second knockout in the first round, and he's got a 25-4-1 record. But it's just strange to see a guy like this come into the UFC and get a main event shot in only his second fight. And his last fight was against Dustin Stolfus, and that's not even really high-level competition. That's not even a ranked contender, so I don't understand why he's suddenly getting Sean Strickland in this fight. And I know Sean doesn't care. Sean really doesn't care who he's fighting, when he's fighting, where he's fighting. It means nothing to him, as long as he gets to get in there and fight somebody. But I just don't see why the UFC would make this fight, because Sean Strickland is a top 10 fighter in the middleweight division. But Abus Magomedov has won his last 3 fights. It seems like he really prefers to stand. He does look well-rounded from what I've seen. He's got 14 knockouts, 6 submissions, and 5 decisions in his career. But the fact that he really likes to stand, I think, is going to work against him in this fight. Sean Strickland won his last fight against a guy who likes to stand in Nasruddin Imavov, and it was a very one-sided decision. And Sean also really likes to stand too, but he has no problem going to the ground if he sees fit. And Sean is probably not going to be the one backpedaling in this fight. I don't think he's going to be taking any back steps, trying to get out of range. Sean loves to be right there in your face in the fire and making it a dirty, grimy fight, regardless of who he's fighting. I mean, hell, he fought Alex Pereira and was still up in Alex's face the whole time, and it ended up costing him the fight. But this is no Alex Pereira he's fighting. And it seems like Abus Magomedov does kind of seem to struggle against guys who like to fight in the same way that Sean Strickland likes to fight. And he does seem to be susceptible to being caught off guard with someone just rushing in and throwing a flurry of strikes, which is something that Sean's probably going to look to do. But I think one of the biggest things that we'll see play to Sean's advantage is Abus does like to lead off the start of every fight with a front kick to the body or the head. one of the two. But it's always a front kick. And I mean, it's like every fight that I've seen of his, it's always a front kick. And I think Sean is going to see that coming, or at least know that it's coming. And I think he'll probably look to catch it. If not, get out the way and just rush forward like we saw Louis Taylor do. And on top of that, throughout the fight, you'll probably see Abus throw that same front kick 4 or 5 times per round. And also, he just throws a lot of kicks in general. And I think Sean's going to be ready for that. I think he'll be able to catch a kick, look to take him to the ground, or just shoot in during a kick. Something like along those lines. Because like I said, Sean does like to make his fights dirty and grimy, and he does tend to be unpredictable at times. And I think in this fight, this is such a big jump in competition from what Abus Magomedov has been facing in his career to what he's facing in this fight. And I'm not sure if he's ready for it. I don't think he's ready for it. And I think Sean Strickland is just way too tough of an opponent to jump from a guy like Dustin Schofield to Sean Strickland. So for this fight, I'm going to take Sean Strickland. And to recap, I will be taking Michael Morales, Grant Dawson, and Sean Strickland. And it looks like that's all I got for y'all. Hit like, subscribe, and all that.